There is not a parent in this country who doesn't believe that Joe Biden, who has repeatedly said he would not pardon or would not commute his son. Scott, there's not a parent in this country who believes that, including yourself.
I agree with you. I don't know how he gets out of that. One way to get out of it, though, if Kamala Harris wins, Kamala Harris can pardon him.
She wouldn't. Why would you put that on her right at the beginning?
I don't know. Maybe they cut a deal. But if she pardons him early in her administration, that would be best. Not when she starts to run for re-election. But remember, Hunter Biden's got a lot of Democratic support. These trumped-up charges, or forgive the pun, but these charges, there are a lot of Democrats who believe that. But for him being Hunter Biden, these charges never would have been brought. In fact, there was a deal to be cut, and it was the Republican pressure from the House and Senate that forced further prosecution of Hunter Biden.
You used to speak for the White House, the other prior administration, the Trump administration. Karine Jean-Pierre going out there saying, no, there's no pardon, again, when there's not a single parent in this country who believes that with any political leaning, it doesn't matter. So what's the position that she's in, and how should they be?
Well, look, I would, if Joe Biden were my boss, I'd ask him again before I gave that gaggle to make sure I was giving the answer, and I would attribute it to him because, as you know, in the media, attribution is your salvation. The president has said no. The president.
You could really go to the president on something like that and ask him?
I would 100% ask him, because then it's me on the hook for lying to the press. I would attribute it to the president, as Karine Jean-Pierre did not do there. Now, that being said, remember, he's supposed to be sentenced in December. That's after the election, but before the inauguration of the next president.
Right.
So he could theoretically do this on the way out, and it causes no political harm to him or Kamala Harris.
None.
And
you're absolutely right.
there leaves time, building off what you just said, there's time to analyze what happens with the House and Senate. Who's in power, right? If you're talking about a possible Kamala Harris pardon. But I don't really think that she'd want to do something like that. If the House and Senate, she anticipated that there would be any political backlash, that they would start opening up investigations, and that would completely dilute, like, the beginning of her term.
It'd be a one-day story.
Yeah, I actually don't really think what KJP said today matters one way or the other. I think he's going to do it if he feels like it's
because
the right
people
thing.
don't believe it.
Well, and also, look, whoever the next president is should turn the page on the whole thing and show the grace of pardoning him. I actually believe that. It would actually make Trump look really high above it, and Harris would have the political capital to expend.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.